What is up, guys? It is the Bluebloods here, coming back at y'all with another 2-minute drill episode today. Shout out to all the support on our last video where we analyzed Deion Sanders and Jackson State's decision to bench Jalen Jones, go forward with Quincy Casey. This weekend in the Alabama A&M game, we kind of broke down what I expect to happen in that game. Some players to watch, some matchups to watch. So make sure to go check that out. Appreciate all the comment supports. Y'all are getting y'all's opinions out there, and I love that. So once we recap the game, I'm going to go back and shout out some of y'all who commented on the video, probably put y'all in the video. So appreciate that. Y'all have been blowing up, subscribing, man. We're literally one away from 70. We're at 69 right now, 69 subscribers on YouTube, so shout out to y'all for that. But I have a really exciting episode today, man. I love talking about these hypothetical situations, analyzing what the future of college football could look like if a certain decision is made here or there. So, at a press conference last week, man, Oklahoma State head coach Mike Gundy pitched an idea to have spring exhibitions instead of inter-squad spring games, which has been the norm around college football right now. He pointed to the idea that most teams don't really have enough depth right now to have a real competitive spring game, and it really limits what the competitive benefit of playing the game in general does. So you're really just going out there and having a glorified scrimmage instead of really working to improve your team, finding out what you got. And in spring, you're trying to get yourself ready for the fall, and you need to know who can play and who can't. So he brings up the questions, should we replace spring games? And in terms of what he wants to do, he mentioned each team playing other teams located within that geographical area. So this could be that Oklahoma State could play Arkansas and or Texas A&M. Those are two teams in different conferences that really don't play in the upcoming year. So it can give teams in similar geographical locations a chance to play, maybe even start up a rivalry, or allow previous or historical rivals to link back up again and play a spring game. And it would allow teams who don't have a history of playing to match up in the spring in like a no-risk type of game, but something that the fans would want to watch. And so I kind of broke this episode down. I want to start with the 3-4 main arguments against this that coaches, some media, scouts, things like that are saying that we can't have it because of these few things. And then I'm going to move into why these ideas really aren't an excuse and why this would benefit college football. And then I'm going to break down two different directions they could take it and some potential matchups we could see regardless of either way they take it. So let's get to the excuses. The first one, risk of injuries. You hear that a lot. You hear that all the time. It's, man, we don't want to get our players hurt. What happens if we have this player go down, this player go down? And I understand the risk. It's a valid risk, but have y'all checked on the wide receiver room in Athens lately? Do they have a wide receiver that's healthy right now? I mean, there's so many injuries that happen in spring all the time. This is a risk regardless if you just have an inter-squad scrimmage or just run normal football drills or, play a spring exhibition. So I'm really not sure what the difference is. I mean, there is a small positive to it. So like, let's say you play an exhibition game against another team, instead of you having to split your team into two and having 22 players on the field at one time where you have 22 guys at risk of injury, now what you only have a handful. You have 11 at the most, and that's an immediate tangible decrease in the chance of injury, guys. And this seems kind of, to me, okay, so let me just preface this. This might not be how you're taking this. This is how I'm going to take it. It seems like a virtue signaling at its finest. I mean, this is not having any facts, data, or backup, or anything to back up your claim here. You're just saying, oh man, we might have an injury, so that means that we shouldn't play anybody. Oh, we shouldn't even take the chance or even explore this idea when you already got players getting hurt now doing nothing, just doing normal football drills. There's a risk of injury just going out there and doing ladder drills, Oklahoma drills, whatever you want to do, or just 707s or anything. I mean, there's a risk of injury regardless. And so why in the world are you making this such a big deal? And this one was probably the funniest to me. I really don't completely understand it, but I want to. It's the job security and the risk of losing. I'm going to group these together, and I want to quote Josh Pate here from 2-7 Sports. Does the awesome late kick on YouTube and on podcast streaming platforms. But he said, if your ice is so thin that losing a preseason game that doesn't count breaks the ice and gets you fired, then you were on your way out anyway. There probably wasn't a realistic chance you were going to save your job in the first place, guys. I mean, let's be honest. And also, here's my argument with it as well. I mean, we see what Kansas is going through right now, where they had to fire Les Miles, fire their AD in just like the middle of the spring, and they're really struggling. They're going to struggle trying to find a replacement because everyone's in spring practices, everyone has their staff set. Do you think a college football program in the middle of April would fire their head coach and have to find a whole new staff with limited time? I mean, these summer and spring months are so important in terms of junior days, recruiting, official visits, everything like that. Especially with the introduction of the early signing period in early December. This is not tangible to do, and I think it would be a terrible publicity move for a university. And I don't think they would risk the backlash unless something drastic happened. And this is a self-serving, lazy argument to me, guys. I mean, if you need to win that bad, then go out there and prepare and win the game. Ultimately, it doesn't count for anything if you lose, but if you feel like you need that win that much, then that should light a fire under you, and you should go out there and prepare like you need a win. And it shouldn't. I don't think the university would want to fire their coach. I don't think the fan base would want a coach fired over this. I just don't think it's a logical, real worry for me. And then, of course, y'all know what's coming. We got playbook secrets. We don't want other teams scouting this game and all that. Okay, well, first of all, let me start here. Can we stop with this perpetuating this lie, this weird perception that every team in every conference, so all those SEC teams, those 14 teams, can we stop acting like they don't have a general perception of what that program is going to do each game day? Yeah, you got the game plan, you got players in and out, but if as long as you don't have a first-year head coach, you don't think coaches know what Saban is going to bring to the table? Probably, but they just don't have the talent to stop them. You don't think people, let's just go, let's look at Dan Mullen. He's he's been there 4 or 5 years or so in Florida, 3 years. But ask, let's just say, I mean, who do you want to ask? Let's call Gus Malzahn up. But what do you think Dan Mullen's going to do? What's his general scheme? What does he like to do? What does he bring to the table? I bet you Gus Malzahn has a whole book on Dan Mullen, and he's played him twice. Played him when he was at Mississippi State. Well, he played him more than twice, but he played him when he was at Mississippi State and at Florida. These coaches know each other so well. They know these programs so well. They know the general thing of what you're going to do. And you can keep it vanilla, just like you do when you play Alabama State the second week of the season. Just like when you play Mercer. Just like when you play the Citadel. You don't have to pull out all the stops in the spring game. This is just the thing that serves as a game to improve and see what you have, what you need to improve on, and find out who your go-to players are. And I don't want to hear the argument. So NFL teams literally go to neutral locations and practice with each other for weeks at a time. What is one spring game going to do that's going to change the course of a program? What makes college football so different that they can't have this happen? I don't buy it. I feel like these are lazy arguments because they just don't want to change. It's the same thing with the playoffs. They're just scared of change, and this would be better for college football. So I want to break down the vast areas where this could benefit not only college football, but individual universities and the perception of parity in college football. Let's start with the obvious: money. The large amount of money these universities can make off of ticket sales, advertisements, concession stands, merchandise at the game, TV money. I mean, look, let's do a home-and-home series. Let's say Arkansas and Oklahoma State. We mentioned that one earlier due to Mike Gundy. 1 year it's in Fayetteville, 1 year is at Stillwater. How great would that be for the fan base to get a real Power 5 game in a game where they've played before, but it's been a long time. And I mean, I think the fan bases would be ecstatic to see that game. And you look at the attention too. The attention is another big positive. The attention these games are going to get in the middle of April is astronomical. There is almost no football product to go out and watch. There is this year because the SWAC and Division II moved their season. But in a normal year, there's not football to watch at this time. And if you're not a huge baseball fan, the NBA season's in the middle and just after the All-Star break. There's really not much for you to watch. I mean, you got the Masters. I love the Masters, but in terms of football, there's not much. Normal spring games already bring so many viewers, but imagine the excitement if we can get Texas A&M Texas on the screen, Boise State USC in the middle of April, where it's somewhat competitive. You get to see what these true freshmen get to do. You get to see what your new quarterback does. You get to see what your first-year head coach looks like. You get to see what these, can Keaton and Slovis build upon another year of starting. You get to see all this. We're talking about millions of viewers, fans traveling all around the country to games. This would be an epic event. And also here's another thing that I put a lot of stock in. What about the old rivalries that we don't see due to conference expansion? We can see dead or old rivalries reignited by these spring games. It can bring in tons of attention, new fans, and excite old fans who miss these rivalries. So there's two routes I think this could go. So let me go ahead and let's break these down to end the show off. I think we could go a group of 5 route and a power 5 route. So which one is better and why? That's up to y'all to decide. I'm going to lay them both out here. Let me know in the comment section. Let us know on social media what y'all think is better. But the Power 5 versus local group of 5 or D2 universities is the first way to go. This is, where these group of 5 universities could pay these Power 5 universities could pay these group of 5s to come in, could pay them their $1 million that they get normally to come and play one game in Auburn, one game in Tuscaloosa, one game in Baton Rouge, one game in Columbus. We already see these during the regular season, but, shout out to Josh Pate for this idea. Why don't we just move these to the spring? If you want to play the Citadel, that's great. Let's play it in April, where that's going to get a lot of views because there's not, other primetime games competing with it. So let's say you want to play 2. You want to play Alabama State in April 7th, and then you want to play the Citadel April 21st. Why would that be a problem? You get to pay them out. Those schools get that payday. They get that exposure, but they even get more exposure because more eyes will be on them. And if you want to do the geographical argument, the local group of 5 schools, here's some matchups. I mean, Alabama, Troy, Auburn, UAB, LSU versus Louisiana Lafayette, LSU versus Tulane, Florida versus UCF, Miami versus Florida International, USC Boise State, Texas SMU, Ohio State Cincinnati, Clemson Appalachian State, Clemson Coastal Carolina, Tennessee Memphis, Utah BYU. There are so many matchups that I would tune into in the spring just to see these teams play. And by moving these games to the spring, we can get a more universal conference scheduling in the fall. We can go to 9, 10 conference games for every conference and get this whole playoff debate underway, and just in terms of what is the strength schedule for each team and how many conference games do they play. Let's get on the same page here. Let's all play the same amount. It would increase the strength of schedules in the fall. It would force all Power 5 conferences to have this universal conference schedule, and it will get rid of those dead weeks that we've been complaining about for years. So this is all the positives and the layout for the group of 5 way. What about Power 5 matchups? Let's go ahead and look at what could happen here, guys. We could have geographical Power 5 games and or rivalry games if they're there. So you could look at something like a Florida versus Miami, which hasn't been played in a while. Pittsburgh, West Virginia hasn't been played since 2011. Nebraska, Colorado, 2010. Auburn, Georgia Tech since like 05 or 06. Missouri, Nebraska, Texas, Texas A&M, Maryland, Virginia, LSU versus Baylor. All these games could be something we could see, and I am here for it. Count me in every single time. And it's going to allow teams that should play just because of where they're located, they should probably be in the same conference, and don't play, to actually play. They can create local rivalries. They could generate interest all around the country due to people be in that geographical region being excited to see these games. Listen, the whole point of this episode is Mike Gundy wants a revamp of the spring game, framework. We do too here on the Blue Bloods on the 2-minute drill, and we just laid it out how it's possible. We answered all the critiques from all the coaches and scouts and everything. So now it's y'all's turn. Let me know what y'all think in the comment section on social media. Should we get rid of spring games, go to more of a scrimmage-based system where we have teams from all around the country play each other? Tell me why it would or would not work, and what matchups y'all would like to see. But guys, I really appreciate y'all. As I mentioned before the episode, I never imagined this Jackson State content and our content would be getting so popular on YouTube. We're almost to 70 subscribers, and that's where we were right before this episode. So keep subscribing, man. I told y'all when we get to 100, we are going to send out some merch. We got a bigger giveaway up for 200 to look way in the future. I'm talking about AirPods or something like that. So shout out to y'all for that, man. Y'all are literally the best listeners out there. I appreciate y'all so much. But guys, we have another Big 12 in 30 days interview out today. We have Iowa State, so go check that out while you're at it on YouTube. Check out all our old 2-minute drills. And guess what, guys? We'll be back tomorrow with another episode, Monday through Friday, man. We don't miss a day here on the Blue Bloods. But for myself, for the 2-minute drill and the Blue Bloods, guys, we are out.